Hello. I'm going to show you how I make three kinds of basses on the DIGITONE. I think the easiest or the simplest bass to make, for me at least, is to sort of think of it as an analog synth or virtual analog, where we have two voices, and algorithm 2 lets us sort of do that because we have operator A and C going out to X, and operator B, I think this is B1, and B2 going out to Y. So they're completely separate, so we can sort of treat them like oscillator 1 and oscillator 2. And the way I go about it is I try to make operator 1, or I try to make both operators sort of saw waves, and operator B is going to be an octave over the oscillator 1. And one way you can do it is to move the harmonics to around 6 or -6 or -7. Then it turns into a saw shape, and it sounds like this. It's very rounded, but compared to just the normal harmonics at 0, it sounds like this. And in the manual, it says that at 0, the harmonics doesn't add any harmonics at 0. But when you move toward, what is this, around 6, it becomes more like a saw wave. And at 18, it's more like a square. And finally, it's sort of like a bell. So yeah, let's just move it to around 6. And it sounds sort of like a saw. But if we modulate, or if we increase the volume of operator A, it becomes a bit more prominent. So this is close enough, I think. And if we move over to operator Y, or carrier Y, we can do the same here. That's another thing. The volume slider on operator B, it controls both operators B1 and B2, and it sort of works like this. Let's just move, set the operator B1. I think this is B1 to 12 or 9, whatever. And notice that for the first 50, you're not hearing any difference because, okay, so this is B2. Operator B2 starts at around 50. And that explains why you don't always hear the difference until you reach this point. So yeah, let's make B2 a bit more noticeable, and then let's increase the feedback. Actually, let's set it back to the default values, one on B2 and one on B1. And this sounds like a saw wave. And then we can compare X and Y. I think or Y sounds more like a normal saw. So let's move, I think if we try to set C to 50 or 0.50, yeah, it's an octave lower. Sort of. So now we sort of have, on X we have a a saw wave 1 octave under or below Y, which is also a saw wave an octave higher than X. And it doesn't really sound that good yet. We have to add drive. And I'll just reduce the release time. And okay, so now we have something that sounds like a saw wave or 2 saw oscillators. Let's tweak the filter cutoff. Yeah, so that's close enough. And this is a bass sound I like because it's very straightforward. It's very simple. We can probably increase drive a bit. So yeah, that's the basic sound of it. We can tweak it a bit by just adjusting the levels of operators A and B. It's a bit hard to find the sweet spots, but that's half the fun of FM synthesis. So, okay, let's try using this. Let's add some drums. I already loaded in a couple of sounds, so I can just sound lock the pattern. So 1 and 4 is a kick, 5 is a snare, 13 is a snare, and yeah, 1, 9 is a kick. And let's add some hats. Hat 1, copy, paste, paste, paste. Lower the BPM to 80 something. Add some swing. And let's make this kick a bit shorter. And these 3 hats a bit shorter as well. Okay, so now we have something for the bass line to play against. So let's try. We're on the wrong page. Let's paste it on page 1. It's a pretty cheesy bass line, but it's just for demonstration purposes. So one way we can fatten it up is to give it some unison. So on the unison page, if we give it 2 locked voices and a unison of 2, it's a bit fattened up, but I like to spread it wide to around 80, or 70 to 80 is really good. Let's make a new bass. So yeah, that's it does take some time fine-tuning, but this is the basics of it's a very basic bass sound that I like to use. Yeah, anyway, let's make a different sound. This one is it's based on my favorite bass sound from the DIGITONE, which is basically just a really noisy saw wave. So let's try to make that again. It's same thing. Operators or carriers X and Y are completely separate with algorithm 2. Let's make a saw. And on Y, let's make it very noisy and very buzzy. Yeah, that's okay, I think. Increase drive to make it even buzzier. Let's also just reduce the release time. And it does take some fine-tuning here as well, but if you adjust the level of operator A, it's a bit hard to find, but it's there. There's a sweet spot. And this is, I've never really done this before, but you can boost the bass by having a high-pass filter and setting the resonance right at a sweet spot over here. So let's try it. So I'm not really sure how loud this is. It's gonna be very loud, but I think a small bump like this is okay. And it's really buzzy, so we can go to the filter page, the second filter page, and just set the width to like halfway. And also notice when we go an octave up, it becomes very, very soft compared to down here. So one thing we can do is move into the setup, funk and trig to go into the setup mode, and set the filter key track all the way to 100. Then we have to set the cutoff again. Around here, I think. So when we move an octave up, the filter will track along with the key. I thought. It doesn't really sound that way. Yeah, it does sound that way. So let's see what it sounds like. Let's take the pattern we just made, copy it, and paste it down on track 3. Let's mute track 1 and play. Oh yeah, it's we have to set on the setup page, funk and trig to go into the setup page. We have to set the octave to maybe 2 lower. No, 1 lower. So yeah, those are, oops, let's see. Those are two bass sounds that I like. Very basic, and they probably don't sound that good, but that's the basics of it, and then I fine-tune from there. And there's a third bass that is really loud, and I tried to set it up like this. It's the same idea where we have algorithm 2 with an X and a Y oscillator, sort of. But this time we're gonna make a main bass sound and a tail sound that doesn't have to follow the same note as the main one. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna fade from X to Y, and where X is like X is the main sound. It's gonna be the basic bass sound, and Y is gonna be a screechy, nasty sound. And yeah, let's try it. Algorithm 2. Let's make a bass sound that is very noisy. So let's go for a square. And yeah, let's just add drive immediately because we're gonna need it. And now we're only listening to X. We're gonna make it as loud or as noisy as possible. So yeah, that's a hard sound. You can do it by having a very high level on operator A and then fade it quickly. And I think you can make it even noisier by, let's see. Yeah, I think this is good. And then let's move over to Y and make it as screechy as possible. I made this patch several times before I started filming, and I figured out that to make it, there's just something I can't explain how it works, but if you go to the synth 1 page 2, synth page 2, if you set the C operator to -500, the operator B, what is it? B1, I think. Yeah, operator B1 behaves differently. Listen to this. Actually, listen to, yeah, this, I think. If we go to synth page 2 and set it back to 0, the C operator ratio, it sort of behaves differently. Actually, it doesn't at all. Yeah, let's just keep it there because I think it's important when we add in operator B2. So now we have operator operator B1 has high volume, and operator B2 we're barely hearing it. Okay, let's try it again with the operator C offset to 0. Let's switch it back to -500. Yeah, I think I'm really sure this is important, but I can't explain how or show how it. I spent a lot of time before filming figuring this trick out, but yeah, we can try it later. So okay, we have made a noisy, screechy operator B or carrier Y. So yeah, this is the trick. We have a very hard main bass on X, and then we're gonna fade it into Y. And we can do that with an LFO. So let's set the destination to mix and set the wave to exp or exponential, I think. And then on page 2, we have to set the mode to play only once. And I think it's easier to work with a BPM of 8 or multiplier of 8. And we want to end up around here when the LFO is done playing out. I think here is good, so let's set the depth to point all the way to X first. And there we have it. It's a really noisy bass. And then using the LFO, we can adjust how quickly it fades into the noisy, nasty tail. It can be immediate or very slow. So okay, I just have to figure this out. I don't know why I had to set C to -500, the ratio offset. Okay, let's try it. Let's save this, just because we're gonna have to reload later, and tweak operator B. Yeah, that's pretty nasty. We're gonna need harder drums to play with this bass, so let's copy this sound, move over to a new pattern. And I usually like to have my basses on track 3. So let's just paste it here. And using the same drum samples or drum sounds, let's make a new pattern with a new BPM. So yeah, the usual. Oops. Let's have a BPM of I really like BPM between 80 and 90. So let's go really fast and have 90. Actually, I thought of this earlier while practicing with the bass sound. I thought about making Happy Birthday with the bass sound, so let's try it. Oops. Set the pattern, let's tap it. Wow, super fast, 95. Okay, so yeah, we have to make the drums first. And we have to make them super loud. So let's take the snares, go to the amp page, and then increase the decay. No, yeah, the decay. And let's give it more drive. And mix in a bit of carrier Y into it. And same with the kicks, let's make them super loud, a bit longer. And I think we have to mix a bit as well. Make this one shorter. And there's I think I'm going to do this for a different tutorial, but there's a nice trick with the sounds where when I make new drums, I usually make a repeating one. Like there's a normal kick and then we have a repeating kick. And it's basically a sound where the ARP is locked already. So it sounds like this. And we can do the same with the snare. So I just copied it because I want the same settings, but I want a different sound locked to it. So we have the repeating snares as well. But we don't need this over here. Okay, I'll make a beat very quick. Kick, repeating kick. Let's copy this kick, paste it here as well. Let's make this louder. Copy this kick over here and this snare over here. But let's make this a repeating snare. Yeah, so on the last page, what I basically have now is Page 1 and page 3 are the same. Page 2 and page 4 are the same, but I will replace the last hat with just a plain hat and give it some sustain and make it 2 steps long. Yeah. And then let's make happy birthday. So this is going to be 3 steps, or 3 trigs long. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Almost 5 is okay. Oh yeah, we're on page 1. Let's copy this page, paste it on page 1. Copy this page to page 2. Yeah, let's just listen through it. And we have to make it have only one voice because there were 2 bass notes at the same time, and that sucks. And I think it's a bit too intense. The attack is a bit intense. Yeah, that's better. And yeah, so let's compare it with the sound that I originally made, which is 2077 bass. Yeah, it's a bit softer, sort of. yeah, I think this is the important bit with... no, they're both the same, sort of. Yeah, this is what I mean with finding the sweet spots, because I really found the sweet spots on the 2077 bass and didn't quite land on this bass. It's very subtle, but it's there. And before we end, I can show you, or I want to show you a bass sound that I made while practicing for this tutorial. Which, even without unison, it still sounds pretty crazy. But it sounds really nice with the unison. Let's try to use this sound for the Happy Birthday song. Copy the sound, go to this track, and paste the sound here. Go to track 3 and copy that pattern over to track 1. And unmute track 1. And move it an octave down. That's the tutorial. Thanks for watching. And just if you have any questions, just ask in the comments or on Reddit or wherever. And I'll try to answer every question. Thanks for watching. Bye.